Greetings, everyone. This is Conzar, and I'm going to talk to you today about my very first show, which involves the website titled The Zeitgeist Movement Are Fascist. This is a website that I created last year after my involvement with the Zeitgeist movement. And I felt like I just wanted to share this website. This is Blog Talk Radio, so we'll go over in detail about what's on the site and sort of my feelings and observations on the Zeitgeist movement as well as the Venus Project. Hopefully I will have a series of Blog Talk Radio segments that will encapsulate my experience throughout society. Right now I'm residing in China, so my experiences here might give people that are involved in the Zeitgeist movement or the Venus Project in the States a different perspective. So the website address is from Google, so it's on Google Sites. So the site, I will post a link in the chat, and no one's in the chat, so I'll do that later. I'll post it previously, but just to get it out in the air, it's sites.google.com/site/the Zeitgeist Movement Are Fascist. Okay, so starting from the very first page, it's the introduction, and I'll just go ahead and read. I've been a user of the zeitgeistmovement.com forums for over half a year. Some friends and I participated in the Z-Day in New York City this past March 2009. So again, this introduction page was written last year, in 2009, almost 2 years. I have shared the Zeitgeist Addendum movie with almost all of my friends and relatives. I have listened to Peter Joseph and the radio podcasts on the subjects pertaining to the Zeitgeist movement. Most importantly, I have watched Mr. Fresco in the documentary Future by Design, listened to many of the radio and podcast shows that he has appeared on, as well as reading several of his publications. I have dedicated this website to expose flaws in the Zeitgeist movement. I will educate based on my personal experience with the people associated with the movement. I would like to stress that the Venus Project is only loosely associated with the Zeitgeist movement. History. The original Zeitgeist movie, created by Peter Joseph, is a collection of facts wrapped with opinions that surround several controversial topics such as religion, money, and war. This movie was an internet sensation. The next movie released by Peter Joseph was called Zeitgeist Addendum. This movie featured the ideas and concepts created by futurist Jacques Fresco and his partner Roxanne Meadows. After this, to help educate the world on topics presented in film. So far, just to give you what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to relate to you my understanding of the movement and the history behind how the Zeitgeist movement sort of came about and my involvement in it. Obviously, I'm not claiming I had no influence over the movement or whatsoever. Just my perspective on it. Okay, movement purpose. The Zeitgeist movement's purpose is to promote the ideas expressed in the Zeitgeist films. They do this in a number of ways, such as organizing rallies, Z-Day, to hosting movie showing events. The way in which most of the movement members communicate is via the forums hosted on the Zeitgeist movement's website. And the movement today is a lot, they do a lot more than just what I've listed here. I haven't updated this page. I just don't feel like it's necessary to do it, but they have created many different divisions and associated people to head up those divisions, which we will get to in later on the website. Forums. The Zeitgeist Movement forums use the Joomla software with an extension called Karma. In order to post on the forums, people are required to create user accounts. Each user account has something called Karma points. A Karma point is a number that represents the fame or dishonor of the user. Points are awarded by other users clicking on the thumbs up or thumbs down icon. Users only get one vote every 6 hours. This vote can be cast on any user on the forum, including moderators, either up or down for any reason. So this is sort of outdated. Well, it is outdated. They no longer have the karma system, and I will get to that in a little bit. But there were several threads and there were several users that continuously asked that the Zeitgeist movement admins remove the karma system. And I'll go ahead and continue reading. The movement also points out many of the negatives of religion, but chooses to use a system with a name that is religious, as karma is a religion. The biggest problem with all, though, is the social stratification that is inherent in their forum setup. On the Zeitgeist forums, there are three types of users: admins, moderators, and users. Administrators have complete control over the software that runs on the server. The moderators have complete control over the content of the forums, and the users can create posts and use the karma system. The power structure is inherent here. The admins are the kings, the moderators are queens, and the users are the peasants. Moderators have the power to ban users, delete, edit, and modify users' posts. The moderators are not elected, they are appointed. Peter Joseph has appointed a few of the moderators, and the rest of the moderators are approved and accepted by the current set of moderators. Someone or someones, probably an admin or a moderator, created a set of rules in which the users are required to follow. If a user breaks the rules, then they are banned. Again, this goes against the ideology of what's present in movies. Movies advocate that a government should not exist and that no person should be able to dominate another person. Moderators have the power to dominate another user by silencing them, banning their account. The moderators do exercise this power, which I have noticed has become more and more frequent. I have made the moderators aware of this problem, but I was told that the karma system isn't a problem, even though many forum users have expressed their disapproval, and that the moderators were needed until such a time that they won't be needed, such as when a resource-based economy has been created. The problem with such responses is that the people with power do not want to give up the power. As they continue to develop the movement, they will most likely continue to gain more and more power. They have not set up any means of preventing corruption of their power. So why should I trust people who I don't know, who are not elected, and who already show signs of abuse of power to help direct the future of the world? The answer is I should not. I warn and advise any person that considers to join the Zeitgeist movement to very carefully consider the group before contributing. I believe that the movement is becoming a fascist organization. The quote below comes from wikipedia.org and I think represents the behaviors of the moderators, specifically of the Zeitgeist movement. Fascist governments forbid and suppress criticism and opposition to the government and the fascist movement. Fascism opposes class conflict, blames capitalist liberal democracies for its creation, and communists for exploiting the concept. I would suggest putting your time and energy in supporting the Venus Project or any open source project before engaging the Zeitgeist movement. Be warned. So I just wanted to talk about a few things. The moderation is a significant problem. As I stated, that moderators do hold power over people, and from what I've seen of the movement, they have not made any attempts at combating the problem of people basically being able to silence other people. And they, in fact, don't consider it a problem. I went on the radio to talk about this when he created a blog about trolls and how moderators were necessary to combat the problem of trolls. And during this, you can go to the radio's website and listen to what I said, but they basically told me that, oh, my arguments are outdated because they got rid of the karma system, and they said that if I wanted to be active on forums again, that I could apologize and they would activate my account again. And I think that's really funny because, as I stated, there was significant problems with the karma system, and they finally got rid of it. So who should be apologizing here, me or them? Enhancing karma. That's the next section. Let me just check the time that we have left on the show. I'm not even sure where to look. Okay. Enhancing karma. The karma system can easily be used as a powerful tool by any person. Okay, so this next section, I'm not going to go into too much detail, I expressed to them how the karma system can be abused and detail how to create a software system that will abuse it, and why not only why karma is socially bad, but why it's technically bad. And so I list this out. Of course, they deleted my post on that in the forums before they banned me. Okay, so let's go to the next page, which is addendum. Addendum. I was informed a few months ago that the Zeitgeist movement forums removed the use of karma. I found out by listening to V Radio and actually called in to comment. I was told that I could apologize and they would unban me. Who should really be doing apologizing? I was banned because I opposed the karma system in moderation. The movement is starting to improve by removing the karma system, but it still seems there's a huge ego problem with the moderators. This is to be expected from people with power. Mute feature. I noted that moderation is not necessary on the radio show. The second idea I proposed was a mute feature which already exists. My first idea is much more complicated and should be implemented at a later time. As of this writing, there are already forums that have the mute feature, oftentimes referred to as ignore or unignore. This enables users to ignore all postings from a particular user. This gives complete control to the users and of the forum and eliminates any need for moderation. This means that threads created by an ignored user could be ignored as well. It should be an option. Another feature is to give users the ability to ignore threads regardless of the creator. Listed below are examples of forums that have such a feature implemented. I list 4 websites, forums that they could use for this feature. Here's some code so I also list some code. So the Zeitgeist movement is improving with the removal of the karma system. However, they need to go all the way with eliminating moderators. Moderators are the gateway to fascism because of the power of the moderators over the users. With today's technology and knowledge, moderators are obsolete. One of the things that is preached by Peter is the need to use technology to eliminate our problems. And you really need to look at the movement itself and look at the problems that are inherent in their system we're building, and start now and use technology to eliminate your current set of problems before trying to tell the world how to solve their problems. I think that the Venus Project has done a really splendid job with this by really not telling people what to do, not really organizing people, because that's not what they're good at. They're good at ideas and coming up with great technology and coming up with ideas for our society, and I think they smartly recognize that. Unfortunately, Peter Joseph, he's a film director. He's not studied society or sociology. Not to say that you need to have to study that, but his background is film, and he does a wonderful job of presenting ideas and information. As a leader, I question his abilities. And that brings us to the next webpage called Leaderless, ? Leader. As all fascist movements in the past, a leader always arises. The Zeitgeist movement is no different. What constitutes a leader? A person that not only informs the followers of the movement's ideas, but the most important aspect of a leader is to direct the followers. In the case of the Zeitgeist movement, Peter Joseph is the leader. He claims that the movement is leaderless. However, he fits the profile of a leader. And what I mean by that, and we'll get into this, is that he not only informs people of the ideas, hey, this is what we would like to do, but he starts to tell people what they should be doing. Moderation. He has already created a hierarchy with the movement. He makes very vivid claims that humans should not be socially stratified. However, he set up the movement around stratification. He appointed his cabinet with the moderation admin teams. He has made new teams and has appointed heads of state for each team. There is no democracy in these decisions. It's the making of a pure fascist movement where the leader starts to build around him followers. And what I mean by that is he's created these new teams, or people at the top has created teams, and there are heads of each of these teams. Why are there heads? Why do their Why does there need to be people at the top making the final decisions? Why can't it be a collective? Why can't it be whoever wants to join those entities join and contribute in the ways as best as they can? Why do you need to have a person that leads it? This certainly goes away from the teachings of Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, where they advocate no hierarchical systems, no hierarchical socially stratified. This sort of really scares me, and it's sort of a new development that the leader Peter Joseph talked on his last Blog Talk Radio show. I think it was back in October 27th. Okay, so here are some points about Peter Joseph giving direction to people. Peter Joseph clearly set out to control people through the movement, which is directly shown at the end of Zeitgeist Addendum. Here are his orders from the movie. Expose the federal cartel. Boycott Citibank, JP Morgan, Chase, and Bank of America. Use and protect the internet. Boycott the military. Boycott the energy companies. Get off the grid and make your home and car self-sustainable. Reject the political system. Focus on working to dissolve the outdated system of politics in favor of technological redesign. These are all things that he's directing and telling people what they should do. It would be much better to word it, if he wanted to express what he thinks would be a good idea, he could say something like, okay, we'll expose the federal cartel. How about what is the federal cartel? Explore what the federal cartel does. Use and protect the internet. How about, I think it's good to use and protect the internet. That's what I'll be doing. Or boycott the military. Instead of telling people don't join the military, say you have a choice. If you are interested in joining the military, why? I personally have decided not to join the military because I believe it does X, Y, and Z. Boycott the energy companies. Again, that's telling you, hey, don't use the various energy companies. Instead, say, I've gotten myself off the grid. I've used these technologies that enable me not to have to rely on energy companies. So I see what he's doing. He's making powerful statements, but it's creating followers that just listen to what he says they should do instead of thinking for themselves critically. Peter Joseph's Blog Talk Radio show, dated 2010-09-29, he said, can't forego the real world around you. You have to be practical and responsible. Simultaneously, you need to make the movement a part of your daily life. He goes on to direct people to leave Zeitgeist DVDs or pamphlets at local coffee shops. As an example of how people should incorporate TZM into their lives. Here's a clear example of how Peter Joseph is trying to control the behavior of his followers. I meet some people who are too far extreme that say how they stopped paying their credit cards and they're rejecting the system at a very personal sense. I would say at a very irresponsible sense from the sort of temporal longevity that I see within the system. Don't disregard your responsibilities to the current system as an individual and think that you will be magically saved by TZM or RVE will pop up tomorrow. We all know this isn't going to happen. Okay, this really scares me from what he's saying. And let me just finish up because I do write it down. It's interesting that he informs his followers that they still need to support the system in which he rips apart in his movies. Why? He says that his followers should wait before rejecting the system until some magical time which he calls critical mass. Would it be bad for his leadership if his followers reject the current system and are being unruly? If he cannot control them now, then he will have a difficult time later on. So he tries to pacify them and informs them that the time is not right now, but will ever be right. And finally, I conclude as, It's a shame that Peter Joseph has taken such wonderful and enlightening ideas and has profited off of them. This is the case with all leaders in the past and is no different with the Zeitgeist movement. So going back, he was talking about an example where someone had said they weren't going to pay back their credit card bills. And he rebuked this particular person on his show by saying that it's irresponsible to do so. And I really question why he feels it's necessary to tell people what to do. And we can even dissect, okay, well, what's their responsibility in this current value system where people value credit card, which is a loan that is money that doesn't even exist. When someone uses a credit card, they're getting a loan from the bank, and the bank is creating that money out of thin air. So I understand why someone would not want to pay back the card, because they understand that, hey, this is fake money. What's the point? So I get that. Would I recommend people what to do? I'm not telling them anything. They can make their own informed decision on should they pay their bills or not. And depending on their circumstance, it might make sense for them not to, or maybe it will. But giving a blanket statement that, you should be responsible is something that, again, is indicative of a leader that wants to control people. I don't think we should be even thinking about how to control people unless you're an elite person who does think about that. There are many documentaries like The Century of Self that go into detail about the psychology behind controlling the public. And people at the top really do think about this because they want to ensure that what they have is maintained. And so in order to maintain their wealth, they have to make sure that the public is uninformed, misinformed, and ultimately brainwashed. So it seems that Peter Joseph is going along those lines, especially with these comments that I've listed. And what I mean by profited, I said that he profited off of the work of the Venus Project. And what I mean by that is his films became very popular, and partly because he found out this great information and he used it to create this organization around it. Now, granted, it's altruistic of him to promote the Zeitgeist, promote the Venus Project, but the direction he's taking it in, and he's taking it in a direction, that's a problem. So I am not really sure what their future plans are, but as the organization starts building upon itself and becomes this hierarchical organization, I really fear that if enough people join up in this particular movement, that the result is not going to be what the Venus Project has informed us. It's not going to be what Chuck Resco talks about. It's going to be more like a technocracy, in which Jacques has mentioned in the past that it will be ruled by elites making decisions instead of computer systems making the decisions. And when I say making decisions, I mean how to allocate resources based on need, not based on elites saying, oh, well, I want X, Y, or Z, or I think it's good to do this or that. It's no thinking. It's a system saying there's not enough water in region X. The computer system figures out how to get more water there. To sort of wrap this up, I want to really emphasize that the Venus Project ideas, I think, are very sound. And I think a future that incorporates those ideas will be so much better than what we have. And if we do not move into that direction, I fear that not many of us humans will be around due to the warmongering, especially now that you see the U.S. trying to incite North Korea into a conflict which would pull China, and there would be World War III against the U.S. and China. And that could be very devastating since both countries have nuclear arms and very advanced weaponry. So I really hope that doesn't happen. But there is a monetary incentive for it. So, well, that's about it for now. I'm going to go ahead and close this as my very first blog talk. I have to work on some of the kinks as my first one. So anyways, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys next time.